Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Wright, and I am a student worker for the Office of Gift Planning. And today I have the honor and the privilege to speak to Mr. Norman Jardine. And we are going to be talking a little bit about Memorial Day, a little bit of his experience in the Army. He has had several family members also who have served this country. And I'm very much looking forward to speaking with him, picking his brain, and hopefully we can all get a better understanding and a better knowledge of what Memorial Day is and how important it is for people such as Mr. Jardine who have sacrificed and for our safety. And I hope I did good of an intro. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me.
Well, it's a beautiful day. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. And it is definitely a beautiful day outside. One of the best days that we've had so far. And it's just a wonderful thing. Everything's slowly coming back to normal. Lord willingly, we continuously stay on this pace. And more importantly, we got to celebrate Memorial Day, which is coming up on the 31st. And I can
Right.
tell your attire's ready. You look great. I'm very jealous of your button-down shirt you have on right now. I got to get myself one of those. But let's start. I want to know how to start. What's this?
Well, let me tell you what we do or what I do
Please, yes.
for Memorial Day. I'm a member of the American Legion.
Mhm.
American Legion was founded about 100 years ago, right after World War II. We have about 2 million members across the country.
Wow.
It's not as big as it used to be because the universal draft was eliminated. So posts are closing. But on the Saturday before Memorial Day,
Mhm.
my post has a section of the National Cemetery at Farmingdale. There were over 370,000 tombstones with approximately 450,000 souls buried in the National Cemetery in Farmingdale.
Mhm.
And not only my American Legion post, but American Legion posts throughout Long Island, Veterans of Foreign War, the Marine Corps League, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, schools, baseball teams, youth baseball teams, that type of thing. And by noon, all 370,000 graves have a flag planted in front of them on Memorial Day.
Beautiful.
Now, it's especially meaningful for me. And just as I'm active with St. John's alumni, I'm also active with I went to high school called Power Memorial. And I'm in touch with my classmates, and over 40% of my classmates served,
Wow.
including Ed Kelly, who went to West Point and retired as a one-star general. But it's okay. I was the sergeant, so he could yell, but I was the one who got it done. And while I'm there, I visit some grave sites. My brother's, who's a Vietnam veteran, and I spend some time there. One of them, a fellow named Dave Searles, he retired to Myrtle Beach, but his father, a World War II and Korean War veteran, died while we were seniors in high school. And since he's not nearby, I go to the north end of the cemetery. I call him on my cell phone and we say a little prayer for his parents. I then walk down a little bit of the aisle, and a high school classmate of mine, Walt McGovern, he died around St. Patrick's Day of 2012. His wife and his children, again, not local. I'll plant another flag. I'll say another prayer.
That's a beautiful thing.
It was, and then not too far from where Walt is buried is my mother's brother, John Donahue. He was a World War II veteran. He died about 40 years ago. His children, my cousins, live upstate, so they don't get a chance to come down. And not 30 yards from Uncle John is my Uncle Joe, who was married to my father's sister. So I have an uncle on both sides of the family buried within 30 yards. And his children, he had 4, I think he's lost 2. His children are not nearby. Kevin's down in Houston. So I say a prayer, take a picture of his parents' gravesite, and I remember their parents. And finally, I walk to the farthest south end of the cemetery, and Roy Koenig is buried there. Roy grew up in Middle Village, and he went to Iona. But going from Middle Village to Iona was quite a difficult commute. So he transferred to St. John's. And between dropping out of Iona, but before he started St. John's, he lost his student deferment. And he went to Vietnam in July of 68 and was killed in October of 68. Um, so so I know everyone's going through a lot. Roy died at 21. So I plant a flag for Roy. I tell all my classmates, and they're all very grateful. Again, since 40% of them served, they identified. So Memorial Day is not just a date on a calendar. Memorial Day is designed for those who have served and to be remembered. Memorial Day dates to like 1868. It was a local holiday. It did become a nationally for decades after that. And through the 60s, it was called Decoration Day. And the year I went overseas, Memorial Day was fixed as May 30th. It became the fourth Monday in 1971. So Memorial Day for veterans is a very solemn event. On Memorial Day itself, as part of my American Legion activities, we have a little ceremony where we remember the men in the post who have died. And we actually have a couple of men who served in World War II. Yes, they're over 100 years old. No, they don't go to the meetings. But we remember them. And one of our tasks is when they do pass away, we show up and render a salute. Not only do we visit the National Cemetery, but a member who's passed away will, I personally go to Calvary in Woodside to plant a couple of flags of members who are buried there. So we take it seriously. After we have a service at the post, we do have a little parade. The local high school, the local baseball teams, because the American Legion sponsors a big baseball program. We go to the village hall where same types of ceremonies. I'll sing the national anthem. There'll be a priest or a minister to say an invocation, and the local politicians will talk. So we take Memorial Day very seriously. It's a meaningful thing.
It's
I'd
absolutely.
also like to discuss what other types of things go on Memorial Day.
Please.
About 15 years ago, I had a chance to go to Hawaii and visited the National Cemetery of the Pacific. It's called the Punch Bowl.
Okay.
There are 61,000 souls buried there, and it is probably one of the most beautiful places on Earth. It's an extinct volcano, and when you're in the top of the lip, you can look down to the Pacific Ocean and to the Honolulu airport.
Wow.
It includes not only men killed in World War II, but those who were killed in bodies not recovered. There were memorials all over the place. One of the most touching, not every body was taken from the USS Arizona. There were still members entombed in the Arizona, but those that they could pull out were buried there. And there's a memorial to all the men killed in the Arizona. And on it, and this was meaningful to me because my brother was a veteran, on it were 55 brothers died on the Arizona, and one father and son. I mean, that was quite amazing. There were some notables there. Senator Daniel Inouye, who was a senator from Hawaii and won the Medal of Honor during World War II, is buried there, as well as astronaut Ellison Ozuka, who was killed in the Challenger explosion of '86. Probably the most famous national cemetery is, of course, Arlington, which is also the largest with over 460,000 graves. The most notable, of course, is John Kennedy. But there's a special section for groups, including the USS Maine, and a memorial for those killed in 9/11. So that's meaningful. And lastly, have you seen the movie Saving Private Ryan?
I have not.
Okay, well, when you get a chance, look at it. The opening scene is an older 67-year-old man visiting the grave site of a man who saved his life during the Normandy invasion. And it actually takes place at the Omaha National Cemetery. we have cemeteries in Europe run by the American Battlefield Commission. So it's not a national cemetery. There's over 9,500 grave sites in Omaha. It overlooks the invasion site. The only ones buried there are those that died either during the invasion or shortly thereafter. So there are no new graves. So this is land given to the United States by the people of France. And the grass there, because it's undisturbed, looks like the grass at the infield at Yankee Stadium. And those grave sites are in military precision. They run, if you stand in front of one, you can see them one right in front of them horizontally, vertically, diagonally. They're absolute precision. And they don't make these grave tombstones anymore. Most of the tombstones are crosses. There are hundreds of stars of David. We no longer have, the government no longer permits those types of tombstones anymore. And they all face east. The American gravesite at Omaha Beach is on a bluff. So you look straight ahead, you're looking at the Atlantic Ocean, and that's where all the grave sites face. They face east to a home they'll never return to. And when I talk about visiting the grave sites at Omaha to my friends who are veterans, every one of them has the same impression, and you'll see it when you watch Saving Private Ryan. It's virtually impossible to keep your composure. It is definitely a moving and beautiful sight, but to see all these 9,500 odd men sacrificing their lives to free Europe, very moving. So Memorial Day, that's just some of my experience with those men who've either been killed in action, who served, who have now passed by, because it is important that we do remember those who've passed away and those who, well, I have a friend. I don't know if you're familiar with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
The basketball player.
Who doesn't know Kareem?
Well, I've known him since we were 14. I went to high school with him.
Wow.
He's written almost 10 books. And one of his books is, the title is, he stole the title, but it's a great title. We Stand on the Shoulders of Giants. He's not a great man, but the people before him were great. Yeah. And he stood on their shoulders. And so we stood on the shoulders of those who are buried in the Arlington Cemetery, or the cemetery at Omaha Beach, or the Punch Bowl, or our local neighbors in Farmingdale. So Memorial Day, it means a lot. It's a meaningful day.
That was, first and foremost, thank you 1,000 times over for your service. And what you said was absolutely so beautiful. And I feel like I've just learned so much, and there is so much that, I want to go see with these cemetery sites. I have had family members myself who have served, and I do have two really close friends of mine from high school, who one of them just went off to start their basic training, I believe it's called, in the Navy. And I have another friend of mine who is in Japan right now in the Marines. So I've been trying to indulge myself a little more, getting a little bit more educated about what they do, and what the Navies do, what the Marines do, what the Army does. And it's just such a beautiful thing, and the sacrifice that you guys make for the safety of everybody in this country should not ever go unnoticed, because I can't imagine the toll on everything, on your health and what you have seen. And I'm sure it has made you such a better person. I can just tell just from how well spoken you are, how knowledgeable you are about
Joe,
things.
did you get the picture that's over there of my brother? I got something I want to show you just a second.
Please, yes.
The picture of Barry and I over there, please. Yeah.
And you have family, and prior to us starting the interview, you've told me that there have been several of your family members who have served the country as well. So I want to ask you, before you bring out the photo, was that something that you knew you've always wanted to do, or was it kind of like a family tradition where you were like, okay, I've had all of these family members serve, so maybe I should as well? What was that driving factor for you, I guess you would
Well,
say?
they drafted me. I didn't have much choice.
Okay.
You know, um, the things were very, very difficult during the late 60s. There was
Mhm.
no one in favor of the war.
Yeah.
Uh, when we came home, we were called baby killers and things like that. Uh, you grew up in the 50s, you know, you saw the John Wayne movies and that type of stuff. Uh, but no, I mean, I never thought of not serving. It was just never an issue. I firmly believe, I still to this day, that each of us should give a year someplace in something, whether it be in a hospital, a nonprofit, or the military. Uh, I had several friends who went in as conscientious objectors and became medics and that type of thing in the service. So no. Um, this is a picture of my brother and I
Wow.
in in December of 1969.
December
He
1969. So that's about what, 51, 52 years ago, huh?
right.
Wow.
He had just come home from Vietnam, and I had just finished basic training. So that was quite a
It's a big
Christmas
milestone.
present. And you know, in 1969, you didn't have cell phones,
Nope.
and if you would call collect, it's probably like a week's wages to call collect.
Mhm.
So you didn't do it. You just showed up. So they were quite surprised. Although I think my father would have rather I would have come home at 10 o'clock in the morning than 6 o'clock in the morning. But it made for quite a Christmas. So serving, my sister's very proud. She always posts something on Facebook about how we serve. So the attitude towards the military man has changed dramatically in the last 50 years.
Mhm. And everybody should, should love and care and show appreciation for what you guys do for this country. Again, something like that cannot go unnoticed. The
Well, thank
sacrifice.
you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it so much because you have helped me and my parents. You were serving in the army when my parents were growing up. So in essence, you helped protect them and you helped them get the education while you were out in the front lines. So,
Well, it was really nice. Last year, my granddaughter, who was 8 at the time,
mhm,
got on the phone because they were talking about Veterans Day and Memorial Day in the class in the school,
mhm.
and she gets on the phone, and you know she's 8 years old, and she says, "Thank you for your service, Grandpa." So that was really, you know, really touching.
What is
Uh,
what does it mean to you to really, knowing the accomplishments and the sacrifice that you've made for this country? Looking back at all of it now, how do you feel?
well, right now, I'm most disappointed at the political situation because, you know, we have an expression: some gave, some gave all, and all gave some. Now people don't really sacrifice or compromise, and um, my brother and I fought for freedom of religion,
Mhm.
not freedom from religion. And that seems to be what we're talking about these days. So as I grow older, I grow more and more confused and more embarrassed about the political situation
Mhm.
um, that can't seem to put the interests of the country before the interests of the party. I'm very disappointed. Um, it's very confusing to me, and I don't know. You know, when I went in the service, the military had a universal draft. So I dealt with grammar school dropouts from Tennessee and Arkansas, California beach bums. They drafted people from Puerto Rico who didn't speak English,
Mhm.
uh, Jewish people from Brooklyn, Texans who were just like you think of Texans, and the guys from Montana who could shoot 300 yards and right on the But I mean, you met people throughout the world or throughout the country. I don't know if that exists anymore. I just don't know. So that was for me a terrific eye opener. And of course, those guys all met someone from New York,
Yeah.
so they really thought that you're from New York. Uh, I didn't give the impression of what they thought New Yorkers would be, because
Yeah.
I guess they were looking for the movie theater of Brooklyn type of people.
Yep. Everybody has that little stereotype, just as you said, like with the California bums or the people from Montana that are shooting 300 yards, hitting bullseyes every time. I think everything, and I definitely see where that uh, your opinion of where everything came from, just because.
And of course, it was the military that desegregated before anything else. Truman desegregated the military in '48, I guess,
Mhm.
and many of these men from the South had never roomed with a black person before, and
Mhm.
now they had no choice. You had 40
Yeah.
people in the barrack, and that was it. You got along. There was no issue on that. So it, you know, I would like to see something where younger people could serve, and I wish them well, because I know what I hope for. Some of it came through, some of it didn't, and some of it's very confusing.
I'd like to elaborate on that last thing you said, as a matter of fact, about younger people joining and wanting to sacrifice for this country. What would you say to How old were you when you joined the draft, if you don't mind me asking again?
21.
So, if you were able to go back and speak to your 21 old self, or if there was somebody that you would be able to give a little piece of advice to if they asked, "Hey, I'm interested in joining the army," what would you say? What would you warn them with? How would you go about that situation?
Well, I'm going to give you the advice my brother gave me.
Please.
I was quite popular in basic because I was getting letters from my brother in Vietnam. And so as they were, you've seen the movie where they're calling out names and throwing the mail out to, and when they called Jardine and said, "Wait a second, this isn't from Vietnam," everyone gathered around me. And my brother said, "Whatever you do in the during basic, and not only are you learning, you're doing the physical PT stuff you see in the movies, you take a lot of tests, you get a
Mhm.
lot of medical procedures." He says, "Do your absolute best, because you never know where you're going to end up. And if you don't show your best, well, they're going to give you an M16 and you're going to shoot people who are going to shoot back.
Yeah.
Not something that's very pleasant." Uh, so I'm a New Yorker, and I barely had a driver's license, and my best mark was in motor mechanics. Not because I knew a lot about mechanics, but I knew a lot about taking tests. And my second best mark was in radio. I learned Morse code. I got it learned encryption, and I was typing 120 words a minute. Um, so that was a pretty helpful skill. So to me, my brother's advice is still the best advice I've ever heard. Do the best you can, because there were 2 million men in the service, so they needed a lot of people, from medics to attorneys to uh, one of my friends was a payroll clerk in Alaska. He didn't even have to go to training. He went from basic right to being a payroll clerk because he had studied accounting. Um, Mechanics, artillery, armor, infantry, supply. I mean, now God only knows what types of specialties they have, because I mean, when I was a signalman, I had a room full of equipment that
Mhm.
now is the same size. Say I can do the same thing with my cell phone, but before I had to put it on a 2.5 ton truck and drag around a generator to power it all. So everything has changed. But I think do the best you can is the best advice. I was fortunate that my brother gave it to me, and I hope I was fortunate enough to listen.
Definitely, it sure sounds like you listened to that advice, and that's definitely something that's definitely universal advice. That's for kind of anything that you want to accomplish in life, whether it's getting good grades or making sure you're doing good on your job, and especially what you said, joining the military. And that's something that's so important. And this has been such a great conversation that I have had with you. I've learned so much. I hope people that are watching this have been able to learn a little bit more about Memorial Day and some of the things that you decide to do, such as, putting the flags on family members, as you said. That's so beautiful. What made you start doing that?
Well, uh, my post went to Farmingdale, and in just talking to people, I heard who else was buried there, and I says, "Well, as long as I'm here, you what the heck?" I mean,
Absolutely.
uh, it meant. I mean, it meant something to this person saying that my father was buried there, and I could see in their eyes or hear in the tone of their voice that although their parents were at this gravesite, they were unable to visit.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, like when I visit Roy Koenig's grave, and on his gravesite are the initials PH, which means Purple Heart. You only get a Purple Heart on your gravestone if you were killed in battle. Many people get Purple Hearts and they are buried, but unless you're killed in battle, they don't inscribe it on your gravestone. So he is that Purple Heart next to his rank of corporal, and his friends and he was K Koenig, I was J Jardine. So he was not my friend, but we were in a lot of classes just because of Catholic school, everything being alphabetical. Uh, all my friends are, all my high school friends are very moved that he's remembered, and they think of how lucky they are and how thankful they are. And like I said, all gave some gave all.
Absolutely.
So, even last year when the graveyard, the cemetery canceled these services, in July, I went with flags and flagged my family's and friends' graves. It was just an itch I had to scratch. Um, it may be something growing up in Catholic school because there used to be, I don't know if they still teach it, there used to be 7 Catholic commandments, one of which was visit the graves of your family. And many cultures do have a strong feeling to visit the gravesite of their family.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it makes me feel it moves me,
Mm-hmm.
and it moves me, and it gives me a chance to say a prayer and say thank you.
Absolutely. And I bet you it moves the family as well for people who unfortunately don't live close to the graves. They know that there's somebody that's there that is sending prayers and taking pictures and showing love for their family members. So that's a beautiful thing that you do, and I commend you for that. That's
But when I talk about visiting, and again, if you get a chance to see the opening scenes of Saving Private Ryan,
yes,
when I talk
definitely.
when I talk to people, and particularly veterans who have visited, and I know a number of people. One of my classmates actually worked for many years in France, and when they have visited the Omaha cemetery, they have the exact same reaction I had. They cry
Yeah.
to see those 9,000 graves of people an ocean away from their home. Uh, they, I mean, the Omaha cemetery is one of the most visited sites in France, uh, but it's not near their family or friends or their hometown. So the people who visit them are strangers. But as a veteran, I visited, and I didn't consider myself a stranger. Uh, but yes, I cried when I saw the grave sites at Omaha Beach and thinking of the sacrifice those men made.
Mm-hmm. You've all made sacrifices, such beautiful and courageous things that you have all done for our country. And my respect for you and for anyone who has served or is looking to serve is I send you my best, all of my prayers, and all of nothing but the best wishes. So again, just
Thank you.
speaking with you today, Mr. Jardine, has been not only an honor but a privilege. And I hope that we have I hope you were the one that was doing most of the talking, but I hope that we got some of our listeners a little more indulged into what Memorial Day is and how important it is for this country to recognize people who have served and the sacrifices that they have made.
Yes, I'm grateful for it.
It has been
Thank you for
such an
having me.
honor again. Thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. I
Thank you.
again thank you for all of your service, and I send you my prayers. I send you my best wishes, not only to you but your family and all of those who you have served with.
Thank you.
Okay, that's
Bye-bye
it.
to all my Okay. Bye-bye to all my St. John's friends.
Take care, everybody.
Okay.